So, what is it about trauma that makes us afraid to have a conversation about trauma? Mental health has been one of the biggest waves in the last 10, 15 years. And we are now starting to identify with certain disorders. We're starting to be open and honest. And quite naturally, we're starting to erase the stigma. So this morning, I want to talk to you about something that was taught in my home, and maybe some of you guys heard it, so I'm going to throw it out there, and you guys tell me if you can finish it. What happens in my house
stays in the house.
Yeah, so I'm not alone, right? Yeah, but what if I told you that it actually does not? You don't have to open your mouth to say anything. All you have to do is go and be yourself.
Yeah.
Trauma can be seen before I actually see you. I tell my clients that. Before you walk in the door, I can see and feel the trauma that you have. So when we walk through life and go through life, we have to be extremely careful on how we address and approach people. Because if we're not careful, we'll find ourselves pushing them away when we really should be drawing them in. So if I say amen here and there, just don't worry about it. I'm a preacher, so I might say amen here and there. But because I want everybody to get the gist of what I'm saying this morning, can I get 3 volunteers just right off the bat? 3 volunteers. Come on up. Come on up. Not you.
I was close, that's fine.
You were close? That is fine. That is fine. Okay. Right. Let me get the bag. Guys, go over there. Stand right over there.
Yeah, that'll be good.
There you are. So we're talking about trauma, right? And we're talking about how it works. I could sit here and tell you guys how the hippocampus, or how we have over quadrillion neurons in our brain that starts our body to function. I could do all that, but I want to make it plain for you this morning. Could you hold that, sir? Thank you. So, life comes at us really fast, right? And so we have these stressors that we don't know about, and we also have these traumas that no one has ever told us about. So if anyone know anything about trauma, it can also be generational. Now I'm going to talk to you some more about that too later on. So what is that we see here? If anybody can just yell out, what is this that we see here? Come over some so they can see you. That's water, right? What if I told you this is trauma? What if I told you he's carrying around trauma right now? So it's 24 different traumas in here that he's dealing with, which is complex trauma, right? He's dealing with childhood abuse. He's dealing with abandonment, neglect. He's dealing with all sorts of trauma, right? And we see this, and he got it all put together, right? You see how pretty this is put together? He got it all put together, and he's carrying his trauma. So, but guess what happens? What's your name now? What happens if Garisha has one trauma, right? No. See? See how it's happening? This is happening through the years, right? Keep going. Stay right there. Yeah.
Wow.
Doc, you can have all this water when I'm done.
Wow.
Now you see how that trauma started to build up? Did you just drop something? See, she's dropping it.
Wow.
This is how trauma works. But guess what happens? Because we can see her trauma, we can see all the stuff that's piling up on her, single mother, 3 kids, 2 jobs, daycare, but she also doesn't recognize that she may have picked up some trauma from mama. So because she hasn't recognized that she hasn't picked up the trauma from mom, guess what?
Oh, wow. Oh, wow.
Yeah. It continues to pile on. Now, start walking up front there. You see how she's carried all that trauma?
Wow.
That's what happens when life goes so fast and we don't recognize that. That's mama's trauma, that's grandmama's trauma, that's her trauma. You can step back. But guess what? What's your name, man? Vanessa. She has one trauma. Who do I help? Do I help her because hers is all over the place? It's visible. I can see it. Or do I help her? She only has one. It's not as significant. At least that's what we think, right? But all 3 of these traumas present something totally different. And I can't, as a therapist, I can't treat all of that the same. So we can't approach all of them the same. That's the importance of it. But guess what happens though? Because we see this, we'll run to them first. And we see, oh, she may be really dealing with one thing, we'll run to her. But what about this person right here?
Neatly packaged.
Nobody stops to check on him. What's your name? No one stops to check on Bob because Bob has it all together.
Neatly packaged.
You see? But here's the trick though. Stay there, Bob. What happens when Bob starts to
Fall apart.
fall apart?
Right.
What happens when Bob starts to fall apart? He picks it up, right? But guess what? I'm going to give you something else. But guess what? We as people, we're supposed to love and treat one another the same, right? But what if I see her holding all of that and I go do something like this? I'm going to help her carry some of that. Bob's still falling apart, but. Oh, I can even. Now, she has enough that she can still carry, but I'm carrying some with her. This is the essence of life. This is what we do as human beings. We're interdependent people. We depend on one another. So if I can come alongside her and help her and make life easier, wouldn't she be more willing to help someone else? So these are 3 different pictures of what life looks like. Whether you are in that, you've been through that, or at some point you will have to experience that. So I don't want anyone to leave here today not understanding the importance of being able to connect with people. We're meant to connect with one another. And when someone is hurting and dealing with something as severe as trauma, this is what happens. Okay? Thank you, guys. Just said it right there, Bob. Bob's still falling apart there. Thank you, Bob. So the significance of that was to jar your memory, to jar your thought into understanding the seriousness of mental health. More importantly, what I call the big white shark, trauma. Now, here's the crux of it all. Trauma can be anything that stops you from functioning as proper as you think it should. If your daily practice is to get up and to run 3 miles, get a great breakfast, healthy breakfast, go into work and do all these things, what happens when you can't do that? What happens one day when you wake up and you are no longer have the motivation to get up out of your bed? You find yourself depressed. You find yourself having anxiety to the point where you're catatonic, where you can't move. This is how mental health and mental illness develop. What's the difference between mental health and mental illness? I get that asked a lot. Mental illness is a diagnosable disorder that can be diagnosed to anyone. Mental health is really a mental wellness of your stress levels. Because we're bound and confined by stressors every single day. And the bigger thing is we pile it on. Just like Bob has it together, all of us think we have it together. But the significant part is being able to be accountable to yourself, set boundaries for yourself, and be open for change. So why did I say open for change? Because we live in a society that we have baby boomers, some Generation X, and now with Z, and so on and so on. But we get caught in our time zone. We get caught in our era where we don't want to think outside of that. We don't want to receive the ramifications of what mental health is really doing. So I'm not here to pick on anyone this morning, but I want to speak the truth about what Grandmama did. So as a young kid being raised by my grandparents, my grandmother had this saying and this thing of go grab my nerve medicine. Every time I would grab her nerve medicine, quote unquote nerve medicine, I did not know that what she was actually asking me to do is go grab her anxiety medicine. She was embarrassed to even speak of it about her anxiety. Grandmama was raised in a very impoverished area of Alabama when she was young. And as she got older, she didn't realize she had some things that she dealt with. So here we are, 20 years into her life, and she's already had 5 kids. By the end of it, she had a total of 14 kids. She never dealt with her trauma, so it passed on to her kids. And their kids didn't understand where it came from. They just thought that was the way it's supposed to be. And then there comes the notion of what happens in this house don't stay in this house. Will stay in this house. That idea comes from not wanting to let the opposition know that what's happening in their home. Historically, it speaks of segregation. It speaks of enslavement. It speaks of not being able to speak out. But what happens is when those type of things are starting to manifest themselves, we start to keep things in, like uncle abusing niece, like auntie sexually abusing her nephew, or I dare say the deacon of the church molesting one of the kids in the church. Why do I say that? It's because the stuff that we keep in the house will be the one thing that takes us out. We're no longer living in a time where we have to be silent. We live in a time now that everything should be totally transparent. Because of the simple fact is that we have a population and a generation that are starting to take over the world, and leading in the way that they know. And the way that they know is through abuse, through hurt, through pain. 80% of the young people 16 and under that comes into my office, all they want to know is, what do I have? They don't want to know how to manage it. They want to know, what do I have? They want to put a label on it, but they don't want to fix it, or they don't want to work on it. So we're in a generation now that they're okay with just having the label. The trauma continues if we're not careful and to get into the trenches of mental illness and learning and educating. My entire life from 5 years ago has been dedicated on literacy, educating people the significance of mental health. Because at the end of the day, I can probably, if I'm almost 99% sure that I could come down each row and find something in each one of us. If at the end of the day you can get help, why wouldn't you take it? Why wouldn't you take it? And that's the society that we live in now. Sometimes people don't want help. And then it becomes a tragedy because it continues. The cycle continues. So, what happens in your house should not stay in your house. The best thing that I always tell most couples is that you have to check your baggage at the door. When you get into a relationship, you need to do some investigation. Everybody heard CSI? Do some investigation on who you about to get into, I did not say bed, but get into a relationship with.
Yeah.
Because they may bring some traumas that you don't have a clue about. 13 years ago, I took some traumas into my marriage that I put off on my wife as if it was hers, which is called projection. I was dealing with something, and I was projecting it as she was the problem. And I thank God that she wasn't the problem, and I thank God that she stuck with me. Because at the end of the day, I had to turn the mirror at me and look at me and own up to my daddy issues. As earlier as I said, I was raised by my grandparents. My dad lived a block down the street. We attended the same church. I would sit in church and he would walk right past me. I would play basketball with my brothers, not knowing they was my brothers. And when I found out that they was my brothers, I was upset. Because how is he taking care of kids in his household and he's not taking care of me? Well, guess what? That was a cause and effect of him and my mama when he was sneaking around through the back door. And they try to keep it hush. But if anybody know anything about light and darkness, what you do in the dark will come to light. I look just like him. Just like him. So he couldn't deny it. So now that caused more trouble in his household. Now my brothers and them are dealing with the back and forth with mom and dad. I'm just trying to paint the picture of what it looks like in the home that we try to keep in the home that become traumatizing as we grow older. That traumatized kid will be, if Lord say, he will be an adult. She will be an adult. There's this thing that I tell my daughters. My granddaughter, she's 36. She's 36 over there. And I tell her, things are not cute. Because the things you think are cute at 3 and 4 years old, if you don't get a hold of them, they're not going to be cute at 14 and 15 when they're rebelling. So I'm talking facts here, and I could, again, I could go into all the nuances in the language of therapy and mental health, but I feel that I'm talking to a crowd this morning that want to hear truth, that want me to cut it straight, that don't want me to talk about all the therapeutic jargon that I can tell you. You want an answer, right? You want direction, right? So this is what we're talking about here. So the significance of how trauma affects a family, the problem is, how do we feel when we can't speak about it? You're struggling in silence and you're wanting to be able to process through all of this, but because you have a family that says you don't talk about what happens in our house, now you have insurance and ability to go get help, but you won't go get help. Because grandmama's going to say, why are you going to sit on the couch and talk to that fella? I get it all the time when you can do it at home. I'm nothing special. I just spent many years in school trying to learn how to talk to you guys, trying to learn how to be empathetic, trying to learn how to be positive reinforcing. But at the end of the day, if I don't have empathy and if I can't relate to you, you don't want to talk to me.
Yeah.
If I can't sit here and form a relationship with you, you don't want to talk to me. Because we have trust issues. We have trust issues. And not only do we have trust issues, we have the power of grandma over here and the possibility of help over here. Grandmama is the matriarch of the family, so what she says goes. Pawpaw is the patriarch of the family, and guess what? What he says goes. Not so. We can no longer keep these things in our house. Has anybody heard of the ACEs in here? ACEs. Okay. Here's the thing about ACEs. It's a trauma tool that we use. It's a 10-point questionnaire. And you get 1 point for every question, right? 1 point for every question. And it's 0 to 10. There are questions simple as, were anyone in your family ever incarcerated? These are the questions they ask. How many people don't raise your hand, but how many people can attest that you had someone in your family that has been incarcerated, right? Okay. And it asks questions, have you ever gone without a meal, or have you felt that you were going hungry? Don't raise your hand. Most of us can do that, right? How many of us have been whooped by a parent? Stuff like that, right? Most of us can answer one or true to each one of those questions on there. And it scores it from 0 to 10. It scores it in the section 0 to 3, or 4 to 6, and 4 to 10. Here's the problem with that. The problem with that test is it's just an indicator of you may possibly be at risk. So, a little more transparency. I scored a 6. So, by me scoring a 6, I'm more prone to have a depression disorder, anxiety disorder, alcoholism, drug addiction. I'm at risk to having all of those based on my score. Well, you may say, well, what if I score 0 or 1? If you score 0 or 1 on the ACEs, you are at risk of being an alcoholic. So regardless if you score 0 or 1 or 0 or 10, you're going to be at risk. So what does that say about our state of the country, of the society? Is that at some point, we are all at risk of a mental disorder. Why do I say that? It's because for so much and so many times we push people away. We use the hand, talk to the hand, and we keep them at a distance because we think because they have a mental illness that something is wrong with them. Yeah, they need support. They need help. At the end of the day, We're at risk of something every single day.
Yeah.
And so we have to be cognizant of that in a way that we're making sure that we're taking care of ourselves. We're doing what we call self-care. Self-care is significant in your life. You are number one in your life. If you don't put you first, and this is what I tell people about good selfishness. That's an oxymoron, right? Good selfishness, right? There's no such thing as good selfishness, but it is. Because you put yourself first before you put anyone else first. It's like the idea, and I think I got this from Dr. Hubbard, is when you're on an airplane and they have the attendants telling you what to do and all that, right? And the first thing they tell you is put your mask on first. Why is that? You put your mask on first because if you can't put your mask on first, you're going to pretty much have trouble helping someone else. So there is a portion where you have to be selfish. You have to put yourself first. Why would you give someone something that you don't have? I'll rephrase that. If you are not healthy, you can't give someone else anything of health. What you are giving is toxicity. If you're always having trouble and always laying down yourself, when you go to give something to someone, you're not giving them anything of health. You're giving them what you have. So let's pass on some good things. Let's pass on some healthy habits, some great behavior. Let's do that. But you can't do that until you find yourself in a state of calmness, in a state of self-care. Be selfish. Now, I know you're going to say, well, Dr. Kevin said we need to be selfish, and now you don't want to cook for your husband. Yeah. But I'm not talking about that. If you want to help you, your husband, your family, help you. Put you first. At the end of the day, you can't give someone something that you don't have. You cannot give any positivity if you're not positive. Have you ever been around a negative person that's always negative? Just sucks the life out of you, don't it? You don't even have any energy left, right? You're like, man, I love them, but I don't even want to call them today. Because every time you pick up the phone, it's negative. Nothing's good happening. But they still see you. They still breathing. They're blessed to be alive, but they got something negative to say. So I don't know how much time I got left. But I need 3 more people because I want to teach you something. I want 3 more different people. I want to teach you something that's so easy for us to do. So I tell my wife this. Come on down. I tell my wife this often. I say, if we're not careful with our mental health, it will happen where you're most likely not to even feel it, right? You're in a grocery store and you have a panic attack.
Yeah.
Let me get this water. You have a panic attack.
Yeah.
And so if you're in a grocery store and you have a panic attack, what's the first thing you're going to do? Most likely you're going to run out of there because you're not going to know what to do. And reason why, bring those other 2 chairs, please. Reason why I say that is because my wife, and she probably don't like me telling this story, but my wife was in the middle of a grocery store and our panic attack came on in the middle of the grocery store. Didn't know what to do. So she calls me and she got out of the store. The problem with that is that if we don't, you can have a seat. If we don't ever face our problems, and if we don't ever try to find tools and things of that nature to help us, we won't be able to do the things necessary for us to be able to be successful in life. There are simple things that we can do, and I know a lot of you guys remember what it was like as a kid, right? Most of us men, we didn't play with a lot lot of stuff that wasn't a truck or a car or something that we're hurting ourselves with. We didn't do that. But a lot of the girls will always blow bubbles, right? There you go. There you go. How many in here think they know how to take deep breaths? Huh? Y'all think y'all know how to take deep breaths? I just need one person to yell out, how do you take a deep breath? In through your nose, out through your mouth slowly. Do you do like this? Diaphragm. Okay. How many people know what a diaphragm is? That's my point. Here's the thing. You're absolutely right, sir. Here's the thing with that. Most of us can't calm our nervous system down because we don't know how to breathe. Our nervous system it's the house for everything, right? It's the holding place for everything, right? Here's what happens. Ladies, you know how to breathe? So, if you're ever, this is something that's simple. And I can go into detail later, but this is something that's simple. Breathing exercises are great for calming the nervous system. But the problem is, a lot of us are moving so fast through life, we don't feel that we can stop and take a breath. So I'm asking everyone this morning to take 30 minutes a day to yourself. No cell phone, nothing. It's getting warm out. Sit on a bench, on a park bench, and just look at the birds. Look at the trees. Take your shoes off, if you're comfortable, and ground yourself. Put your feet in the grass. Put your feet in the dirt. We come from dirt. We all played in dirt. And some of us ate dirt. It's just the truth of the matter. So, I'm from the South, and pregnant women ate clay dirt, if y'all know what I'm talking about. Okay. So, something as simple as stopping and taking a break, taking deep breaths. So, this is one of the techniques that I teach my clients on breathing techniques. This is just simple bubbles. When we blow bubbles as kids, we like to blow those big, long bubbles, and we will compete with our friends and all that. This is a great way to calm yourself, to learn how to breathe. Because when you are blowing these bubbles, you have to take deep breaths. But the problem with breathing, though, most people suck it in instead of push it out. Breathing, deep breaths go when you push out, not when you suck it in. You're really getting more by pushing out. Okay? So we're going to see if these three people know how to blow a bubble. And we're going to work on breathing techniques. So what I do is we do 4-3 counts of breathing. Breathe in, and I count to 4 slowly. Breathe out 3 times, I count to 3 slowly. So that controls the breathing. Because again, we're trying to relax the nervous system to where the anxiety is no longer taking over us. Okay? Y'all ready? So I want you guys to act like you guys are kids again. And I want you to take a deep breath, and as I count, I want you to blow. Y'all can't open them? Now, when y'all was kids, what y'all do? Put them in your mouth, see? Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Got it? Okay. So get it out. She got to get her necklace out. You got it? Your nail bit better than mine. Yeah, it is. Oh, there it is. All right. We got hers now.
Ready now.
Okay. So, you got your bubble. You got your good. Make sure you got enough soap on it. So, what I want you guys to do is I want you to breathe out as I count to 4. Okay? Now, we're talking about calming the nervous system. We're talking about getting them to a state of calmness. This is if you're dealing with anxiety, if you're dealing with a lot of stress, and you got time. So, you ready? Everybody? I'm going to count to 4. I want you to blow as I count to 4. Ready? Start. Ready? Blow. 1, 2, 3, 4. Uh-oh, you ain't have a bubble. No, I'm going to count. So I want you to blow as I count and hold it. That's the point. Hold it. Ready? Yep, there you go. You got to take a deep breath. Now, you see, wait, if y'all see her, did you see what she just did? She did just like this instead of pushing out to take the deep breath. That's the whole point. Okay, now you're pushing your stomachs out as you're breathing. Okay, ready? Go. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's all right. She working hard up here. Here's the thing. This is typical of us. This is typical of us. Although this is a simulation, our breathing is not controlled. A lot of times we just huffing and puffing and doing these things and we're going and going and going. This allows us to breathe and focus on our breathing. So now I want you to sit up, sit back. Everybody sit back, sit straight up. Okay. I want you to push your stomach out. Let me see this. Okay. Put your hand on your stomach, like so, and push out on it. Now let it go. There you go, slowly. Now that's how you breathe, okay? That's how I want you to take your deep breath. Did you see what she did? Okay. All right, you ready? Ready? Go. 1, 2, 3, 4. You gonna get it? She said she gonna get it. Okay, one more time. Ready? 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, great. So, now put the tops on there, please. So now you guys started breathing, right? So now what I do is, once they've gotten the technique of breathing, I do it without the bubbles. So now I need you guys to set your bubbles down. She said, do we have to? I want you to sit straight up, put your hands on your lap, and I'm going to count to 4. I want you guys to hold it. Now, there are variations of this. Sometimes we go to 8 or 10. It's just different, right? But for the sake of this demonstration, so what I want you guys to take a deep breath. I'm going to count to 4, and I want you guys to hold it, and we're going to release it on 3. Okay? Ready? Go. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now let's read this. 1, 2, 3. I'm counting. I'm going to count to 3. You got me? Okay. Do it again. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Great. Let your shoulders drop. Make sure your shoulders are dropped. Okay? Let's do it again. Ready? 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, now let's do an 8 count. We're going to do it. You got to hold it for 8 seconds, right? As I count. And then I'm going to release. We're going to count backwards from 8, okay? Let's go. Ready? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, great. Now, this right here, I guarantee you they feel a lot more relaxed. How you feel? A lot more relaxed, right? It's simple. This is what happens when we're upbeat so much and we're going through so much during the day and we finally find ourselves with a big old panic attack. This is the thing that we need to be doing. Trying to calm the nervous system. Always think about calming the nervous system because that's what everything holds. That's where everything's at. We have over a quadrillion neurons in our brain because our body has to operate. So all these neurons are telling our feet to do this, telling our hands to do this. So guess what? We have to be able to calm those. And if we're not able to calm those, we're always in a state of anxiety. Thank you, guys. Here, wait. I got something for you to come up here. Y'all didn't embarrass yourself for nothing. So, thank you. So, I put something in that, and I'm going to wrap up here, Doc. I put something in there because I put a crossword puzzle because it's a mindfulness activity. I put a journal in there because we have all these thoughts up here, and we hold them up here, and we never want to write them out. And then also put some bubbles in there so they can learn how to breathe. Because at the end of the day, life is going to hit us, and we're not going to be able to deal with it. I'm going to say this, and I want you guys to always think of this, and think of me when you think of this. We're not in a state of fixing things. We're in a state of managing things. Do you understand what I'm saying? The minute you think that you fix something, guess what happens tomorrow? Something tragic happens tomorrow and it triggers you again. So if we are in the process of always fixing things, we'll never get it done. You have to learn how to manage your emotions, your thoughts. Do you understand that your thoughts trigger your emotions and your emotions trigger your behavior? That's how that works. It comes here, here, and guess where? Out. So if we're not careful, we'll find ourselves bottling all that stuff in. So whatever is happening in your house, release it. There are people out there that are willing to support you. And I will say this, and they don't always have to look like you. I was in the military, and we had what we call battle buddies. If anybody in the military know, we have what we call battle buddies. My battle buddy was from St. Louis, and then he did not look like me. He did not talk like me. He did not move like I did. But guess what? Anytime I needed him, he was there. So the most unlikely candidate would be that one that you need in your corner. So whatever's happening in your house, whether you believe it or not, it's not in your house. Society sees you. So it's important to get the help and the support you need. Thank you.